it was a byproduct of two things. One, we all knew each other before our shows really got cast. But, I had a girlfriend that was roommates with Jennifer Aniston.
Bring the people mountain. Where we're going, we don't need roads.
Excellent. All right, I'm going to jump into this. I wish you could see it. This is normally a great background with Chicago behind me. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is obviously with any great medical show, I feel like the city where the hospital resides ends up playing. This is such a pretentious thing to say, but it really does end up being a character. And I am talking to you from Chicago, which was the setting of ER for so many years. And I'd love to know how you think maybe Chicago impacted that series and how it compares to the setting of the Pit.
Uh, well, I mean, Chicago was like a character in the show. It was a huge aspect, not just because of the population that we were treating, but the varying degrees of temperature, literal temperature swing. It's a hardcore city, it's you have a great cross section of population ethnically. You got a diverse socioeconomic range. Um, you know, it's a great microcosm for a American city story to be told. Similarly, Pittsburgh, offers the same thing, except it hasn't been overshot the way that New York, LA, Miami, and Chicago perhaps have. So it's just a different aspect of America, but gives the same kind of cross section. Added advantage for Pittsburgh is it's a rural area surrounded by, I mean, an urban area surrounded by rural ag land. So you get a really diverse caseload. You get things like farm accidents, and you get car accidents, you get gunshots, and you get, propane gas tank explosions. So, and it's remade itself over into a medical center these last couple of years. So it also made sense to plot a hospital show there.
That makes sense. I always love the stories of like James Gandolfini used to talk about hearing from like real wise guys when he was filming The Sopranos, and Martin Sheen said he used to hear about from real politicians when he was on West Wing. I'm sure 1,000 doctors and medical professionals have come up to you over the years and said, you know what, actually, but I'd just love to know over your time playing, someone in the medical field, what is the most interesting note that you've gotten from a real life person who really knows what they're talking about?
Oh, it ranges. Sometimes you get compliments and sometimes you get criticisms. Sometimes you get that would never happen, or you get you know what you should do on your show. I got a story for you. But the most rewarding are the ones where you meet somebody and they just feel sort of seen. They feel represented, and not just with the procedures and the medical knowledge, but they feel represented emotionally, that you're
Mhm.
somehow depicting what their emotional and physical reality is. And that's very gratifying. And this show has really been incredible in that regard. The medical community's really embraced this show in particular, and we've gotten a high degree of praise for our authenticity, which is really gratifying because that was the exercise.
Well, and I think a lot of that comes from I want to say that like the show is R-rated because it doesn't have a rating, but this is going to sound weird, as like a fan of blood and gore, we get a little bit more of sort of an R-rated version of these moments oftentimes you just really can't get with network TV. These scenes are just, they feel more authentic and realistic by nature of having a little bit more blood and gore. I'm sort of curious as to how that changed your perspective as an actor, sort of realizing that, when you cut into someone or when you're showing someone's leg, it's a little bit more of the real deal.
Well, even a step further, we ask the people that play our patients to sign non-sexual nudity waivers, because the first thing that happens to you if you're a trauma patient is you get your clothes cut off. So, that happens with every patient that comes in. Whether we photograph it and whether it's depicted is a question of taste and narrative discretion. But the
Sometimes
procedures
there are
are
rats that
all
fall out.
sometimes. So as an actor, to answer your question, it's such an immersive experience because the gurney comes in, you cut somebody's clothes off, they're naked, there's a photorealistic wound to treat. You've been trained for months now on the procedures to employ, and everybody in that room is working in concert doing this sort of choreographed ballet, and we don't really cut until it's over. So it's almost like a stage performance where once you start, you don't stop. And then once it's over, you reset everything and you do it again. But it allows you to really feel free as an actor and just be in the moment.
But to that point, I love the structure of this show so much. I love that every episode is 1 hour. And because of that, a patient isn't gone after sort of one episodic episode, and then they're still there. So, and because of that, I feel like you guys do this really great job of connecting the doctors with the patients, even sort of in this kind of fast moving environment. I'm sort of curious. You've obviously had in your career a lot of actors slash patients that you've dealt with. I'm sort of curious, is there one that even you as an actor connected with, in the same way that doctors have, connections with their patients, where maybe even after that storyline was wrapped up or you sort of moved on, that particular storyline stuck with you?
Uh, I had an opportunity on ER to shoot a couple of storylines in Africa. We did one storyline that took place in Darfur and one that took place in the Belgian Congo. And when my character went off and did that kind of medicine, that kind of war zone triage medicine, where he's putting himself somewhat in harm's way and really seeing the tangible result of his efforts saving lives, right, in a really extreme way. I found those storylines to be the most gratifying. And I befriended a lot of people that do that kind of medicine. And some of my warmest relationships to this day are the doctors that I met that worked for the organizations like Doctors Without Borders, or in this case, Doctors of the World.
I love that. I specifically remember that those plot lines. Those were fantastic. I know
Thanks.
they're going to pull me out of here. I have two nerdy questions for you, if you don't
Shoot.
mind.
Oh, I like nerdy questions.
I would love to talk about the filming of the Friends episode alongside George Clooney, and I just love to know how that came to be and what that experience was like. What you remember about that moment?
It was a byproduct of two things. One, we all knew each other before our shows really got cast. But, I had a girlfriend that was roommates with Jennifer Aniston, and the third best friend was dating Matthew Perry. I had friends that were going to Northwestern with David. And when the show started, we were on the same lot, 200 feet from each other, and it made perfect sense to go over and watch them tape every once in a while because we were all hanging out. And then our shows blew up, and it seemed like the greatest cross promotional stunt you could pull for a network. And we were all amenable because we were all hanging out. And I even wore my own suit. I mean, I bought that suit at the Beverly Center like a week earlier, and I was so proud of it. Even had four buttons and massive shoulder pads. It looked ridiculous, and I was like, "No, I'm gonna wear that one."
Dude, and it's such a great. I remember sort of doing my first watch through of Friends years after it ended, and when it happened, just sort of being. I did not know. I did not watch it live on air, so it was such a cool surprise, and I'd imagine is going to keep being a surprise for people that discover it years later. I'll
The
cut you loose on
surprise for me
this.
is that what a baby I look like in that episode. Now I look at that and I look like I'm 14 years old.
I'm not seeing much of a difference between then and now, man. I'm seeing still
Oh,
the baby face, still
there'll be a
seeing the
little
baby face.
something in your check at the end of the week for that one, my
Fair enough.
friend. Thank
Fair
you.
enough. This is one last nerdy one. I know I'm a huge movie fan and I love movie trivia. And I know that you didn't necessarily share a scene with Jack Nicholson on A Few Good Men, but I also have always heard stories that whether he was in rehearsal or at a table read or whatever the case may be, that he never like half-assed that monologue. He never and the code red monologue. And so I know that you had to be at the table read, which means that you got to be in the room for the delivery of one of the greatest, in my opinion, movie monologues of all time. And I'd love to know what you.
True
I
story.
just love Jack Nicholson stories, and I'd love to know what Jack Nicholson story you have in regards to that.
I only have two. One was the table read, which, table reads are sort of an opportunity for the whole cast to hear the whole piece out loud. It's really a service to the writer and director to kind of hear that out. And it's sort of a team building exercise, it's sort of a meet and greet. But in terms of performance, it's usually, kind of a double up the middle. Nobody's really swinging and everybody's nervous. And so that was the vibe. and until Jack Nicholson started, and then he gave the performance he gave in the movie at the table, and as soon as he opened his mouth, everybody was like, "Oh, we're doing this! Oh, we're really doing this!" And like everybody's posture got straight, and everybody got good quick. The only other story I have is I was on set on a day that he was working, and he walked past me, and I heard him say, "Anybody mind if I have a left-handed cigarette?" And he went around the back and smoked a joint. And I thought that's so fucking cool.
I just want to say, hey man, I know you have a very busy day. Are you guys still in the middle of filming the
Not in the
15?
middle of it. We're on the finale now. We finish next Thursday, so we've got only a few more days left. We're right in the thick of it.
Well, just the fact that we're even getting 15, man, as opposed to, 6 and then waiting 3 years, man. I know it's a lot of work. I know you're probably wiped, but I appreciate your sacrifice, man, because it is a killer drop every Thursday, dude. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Jake.
All right. Next time you're back in town, dude, please let us know.
Will do.
All right. Take
Stay
care, man.
warm.
Good to see you.
Stay
All right.
warm.
We'll do, man. All right. Thank you, everybody.
Where we're going, we don't need roads.